Welcome back to our Chicago. Joining me now is the incumbent Illinois Attorney General, Democrat Kwame Raoul. He's held that office since January 2019. Before that, he served as an Illinois state senator for 14 years. His legal career began in the Cook County State Attorney's Office. Attorney General Kwame Raoul joining me now. Good morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We're going to start with the same question as your opponent. This election for Attorney General is coming, as you know, a critical legal time across the country. So many major issues now facing states. Your top priorities if you're reelected?
Well, first of all, I think it's important for me to continue my work on violent crime. There's been a proliferation of guns that come into the Chicago area and throughout our state. And I've done multiple things to fight that flow of guns, including creating a crime gun tracing platform, suing to get a rogue gun manufacturer license revoked, prosecuting gun runners, and working with victims of crime, training law enforcement on firearm restraining orders, and working with the Secret Service's National Threat Assessment Center to try to prevent mass shootings and other targeted violence.
Attorney General, I have to ask you about the Safety Act. As you know, there are a lot of questions surrounding that. Critics say it was political ambush. Several states' attorneys are now coming out against it, suing the state. Where do you stand on the Safety Act as a whole? Will it mean more dangerous people could be released, as the critics say, putting the public at risk?
No, I think that's fear-mongering. I think, like any legislation, I've served 14 years in the legislature. We return every year and we amend legislation. And so there's definitely things to be cleared up in the Safety Act. I personally presided over 25 meetings with states' attorneys represented, with chiefs of police represented, and sheriffs represented, with regards to a provision within the Safety Act that deals with police certification and police training. And I actually received the reward from the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police for Public Servant of the Year for my work on the Safety Act. So the Safety Act is more than about one provision. With regards to cash bail, I do believe philosophically that cash should be the determinative of whether or not somebody is held pre-trial. It should be their risk to harming the public or their flight risk. And so we need to focus on that and make sure that there's clarifying amendments. And I think the legislature is working on that. And this fear-mongering is not helping.
But let me follow up on that, because those who oppose it say the threshold to prove a flight risk for judges to hold someone in custody, say for domestic violence or kidnapping, is just too difficult to prove. That bar is too high. So in reality, the judges can make that decision.
Well, I think, again, the legislature is having conversation with states' attorneys, with other law enforcement. And I think there's a veto session that occurs before January 1st, where the Safety Act's provisions with regards to pretrial detention would take effect. The Safety Act has already been amended in other portions of it. And so this fear-mongering, I've heard people say, well, the Safety Act has caused all this crime when provisions of it haven't even taken effect. That's clear evidence of fear-mongering and misinformation.
Let me move on to organized retail theft. I know you've spent a lot of time working on that. You've heard people say that part of the problem is lack of consequences in prosecution. Is that the case here for the rise in these crimes? What's behind it? What can be done?
Well, organized retail crime, we focus on the low-level offender a little bit too much, but this is organized crime. These are not just organic events of smash and grab. These are people who are being hired to commit these acts. And they're able to monetize the proceeds of this criminal enterprise by reselling it on online marketplaces. And so we have taken a comprehensive approach at tackling this problem. I co-chair a national task force on organized retail crime, as well as a task force within our state. And we've been educating law enforcement partners throughout the state. We've had several successful busts. We've had some stings going on at different shopping malls, and it's been a great partnership.
Public corruption, an issue, as you know, throughout every level of government in Illinois. What have you done to help reduce public corruption across the state?
First off, I hired personnel with expertise at fighting public corruption. My chief of staff is a former federal prosecutor who's prosecuted public corruption cases. My chief of investigations is a former FBI agent who has years of experience investigating public corruption cases. I hired a career prosecutor from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office to be my head of public integrity, and we've prosecuted cases throughout the state of public officials committing misconduct.
All right, I'm going to have to leave it right there, trying to keep it to equal time for both of you. Attorney General Kwame Raoul running for a second term. Thank you so much for joining us today and answering some questions.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our ABC7 Chicago YouTube channel.